Welcome back to the capsON Sports Podcast. It is finally wildcard weekend. The playoffs have started. It is the beginning of January. Happy New Year also. It's our first show back. We have, 6 games this weekend? The playoffs got expanded in the NFL this year. I think one extra team per division and
conference.
Per conference, sorry. And yeah, it's pretty much it. How is everybody doing today? We got a big weekend ahead.
Super wild card weekend is what the NFL is calling it this week, and it is super. I am very excited.
2 triple headers, Saturday and Sunday. No, that'd be a little excessive, but it should be a fun weekend with some good football, and I'm excited for it.
I totally agree. All right, so we have a different format this week. It's going to be, at least for this week, I'm thinking maybe throughout the playoffs. I don't know. We'll decide, but it's just kind of a different way because easy money and make the case don't really work when you only have 6 games to pick from. It's only going to get less from here. So we're going to have, I think, 4 games next week, then 2, and then the Super Bowl. So this week, to explain the format, we're going to have $1,000 each. And basically, we were tasked with crafting a betting slip for the entire weekend. You can do whatever you want with it. You can put it on spread, total, money line, prop, literally anything you can find on a sports book. So we're going to run through all the games, just give you the analysis on the game itself. And then we're also going to go through and just kind of give you our picks and pretty much just lay out our cards over the next however long this episode goes. So let's kick this off with Saturday. We have Indy versus Buffalo. So the Colts visiting the Bills. The Bills are 6.5-point favorites. 51 is the total. Buffalo is the hottest team in football right now, and I feel like that can't be disputed.
You can't dispute it.
You can't.
Because not only has their offense gotten better, but because their offense has been solid all year. That hasn't been the issue. The issue all season has been their defense, but where they really improved has been defensively. They're getting healthier. Like Hyde, Tremaine Edmonds, all those guys, their stars are getting healthy at the right time, which makes them a very dangerous team.
I'll talk a little bit about the Bills' record. So the Bills are 11-3 this year. And listen to their 3 losses, because you could easily argue that all 3 of their losses are kind of fluke losses. Their first loss was to the Tennessee Titans, and that game got rescheduled multiple times before being played on a Tuesday. Their second loss came to Kansas City, and that game got rescheduled, and it was moved from a Thursday to a Monday night. And then their third loss this year was the Arizona Cardinals, which was the Hail Mary. So you can kind of put an asterisk next to their 3 losses this year and argue that they kind of got screwed at the end of the day. Saying that Buffalo is the hottest team in the league you're right. Josh Allen played 1 half last week and he threw for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was throwing them to Isaiah McKenzie. Who the hell is Isaiah McKenzie? Huh?
3 of them, or maybe 2, and then he returned a punt or something.
Something like that. So, who the hell is Isaiah McKenzie in this offense? And Miami was supposed to have this great defense that was supposed to stop Josh Allen and this and that, but didn't. So, Buffalo, wow. And you only get to give them 6.5 of this game at home, and they're going to have 6,000 fans in attendance for their first postseason game since 1995. Come on.
That's 6,000
game last year?
Home game.
Okay. Qualifier. Sorry.
That 6,000 is going to feel more like 60,000 with those freaking lunatics up in Buffalo. I'm so excited.
All right, I just want to run through.
Especially since they haven't heard it. They haven't heard fans all year. So, it's going to be a welcome change. I do want to see how I believe the Colts have had fans in their stadium.
At least for most of the year. I could be
wrong on that one.
Yeah. Definitely at least for the second half of the year. But, yeah, they've had fans at least for the latter part of the season.
So it's going to be interesting to see how these fans, how the Colts react in somebody else's house when there's fans, and even how the Bills react when they have their own fans behind them. So I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic in this game.
I want to just talk a little bit about the Colts here. Obviously the rushing attack is there. We saw Jonathan Taylor rush for 200 plus yards last week against the Jaguars. But can their passing game keep up? Now, the Colts did win 4 of their last 6, but those 4 wins have come against Houston, Las Vegas, Houston again, and Jacksonville. They lost to Tennessee and they lost to Pittsburgh. So really, are those 4 wins quality is the real question that I see here. The They were crushed by Tennessee. They relied on 2 late fumbles, and they blew past. The only reason they got past Houston was because there was another fumble issue. They blew a big lead to Pittsburgh. They left it all in the fourth quarter last week against Jacksonville. I just can't trust Indianapolis here when I know that Buffalo is the hottest team in football and Josh Allen can make stuff happen with his legs and with his arm.
Good thing you said that, because Nick, Mano, and Sam are all on the Bills minus 6.5 this week. Nick has allocated $350 to the Bills spread, so over a third of your money.
Oh my goodness!
Wild. Lock of the week for Nick, clearly. Mano coming in a close second place at $230 on the Bills minus 6.5, and Sam at a close third at $200. I myself I'm gonna stay away from this. I think there's a lot better options at here, and the Colts have been a tough team. We've been fans of the Colts as well as the Dolphins. I just think the Colts are a scrappy team. I don't really want to mess with this, but I'd like to hear more about how you guys kind of came to the decision on the Bills. Obviously, they're the hottest team in football, but we're dealing with a spread here. Money line, I agree, 100%. Spread, I'm a little hesitant.
I think this is it's the defense to make the difference here. Like the fact that they've kind of put their defense at a point in recent weeks on just about, maybe not quite, maybe like it's, Colts are, here, Bills are right below them.
Yeah,
at this point in time where, maybe 6 weeks ago, it's, the Bills are way down there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the emergence of this Bills defense is the reason that they will, blow this game out in the end. Not like, maybe not a blowout, but, stretched out to 10 points at the end, like maybe like a 31-21 win or something like that. Make at least make Phil Rivers make one mistake, a couple even, do enough to make him uncomfortable. And then also just to add to my picks in this game, also have $50 of my $1,000 on a nice little prop of Stephon Diggs to score 2 or more touchdowns at plus 450. I just love the value there. So good value in what he's been doing recently. No one can really guard him on that Colts defense, I don't think so.
I mean,
he's been one of the best wide receivers in the league.
Yes, exactly. And when I opened up about this game, I talked about Indianapolis and how obviously the rushing attack is there, but can their passing game keep up? I mean, you're going to get 2 touchdowns out of Jonathan Taylor at the very most, and that's 14 points. Obviously, granted, you make the PAT, but then you get at least 2 touchdowns out of Stephon Diggs, plus the rest of their offense, plus what you're going to get out of the backfield in the goal line opportunities. Indianapolis, they're of course, I didn't write down the freaking number, but their defensive efficiency has dropped from week 1 all the way down to week 17.
Mm-hmm.
They remain solid against the run game, but they get torched down the field, in the passing game. Obviously, they have a decent secondary, but when you're relied so heavily on that, what are you going to do? The Buffalo Bills also just signed Kenny Stills. He's expected to probably be available for this game, and he's supposed to be playing on the practice squad this week. So add another weapon to that offense on top of a speedy John Brown, the underneath guy, and Cole Beasley. You have a young stud in Dawson Knox at the tight end position. Zach Moss is a viable, second running back, even arguably a running back 1 over Devin Singletary. I think this is one of the easiest bets this week, and that's why I put so much money on him.
I think the key for the Bills here is to get out and start fast.
Yes. Yep.
I think they're going to come out. They're going to come out with a chip on their shoulder because of what happened last year in the playoffs. They were a sack away from beating the Texans. Granted, in the wild card round or round 1 or something like that. And Deshaun Watson, who's not here this year, scrambled away and they went on to eventually win that game. But like I said, I think the Bills have to come out and start fast. I think if you grind the game down, I think that plays into the Colts' hands, right? If the Bills go up like 7-0 early, 10-0 early, and they force Phillip Rivers to kind of be that offensive driver, I think that plays right into the Bills' hands, even though, like you mentioned, the secondary, although it's got names, it's a little bit shaky still. But I'm not worried about it with Phil Rivers playing quarterback. And I know I've been on Indy the past couple of weeks, but like this is a matchup, hottest team in football in the Bills. And honestly, they're real close to being my Super Bowl prediction. So I got to roll with the Bills here.
Okay. That rounds it out. Nobody on Colts plus 6.5. 3 of you guys got some of your $1,000 on the Bills minus 6.5. That game's at 1:00, just so you guys know. And to reiterate, Bills minus 6.5. Total is at 51 for this game. Next game is going to be at 4:40. It is the Rams visiting Seattle. So a little NFC West matchup here in the playoffs. Both of these teams, along with the Cardinals, kind of were going down to the wire until week 17 to see who would make it into the playoffs in the first place, who would get a wild card spot, who would even take the division. It was really up for grabs up until the end. However, the Rams were 10-6 this year, Seattle 12-4. The Rams 9-7 against the spread, Seattle 8-8 against the spread. The Rams, which is interesting but makes sense because of their defense, 4 times they hit the over, 12 times they hit the under. Seattle 7 on the over, 9 on the under. What do you guys got on this game? Kind of initial thoughts before we go through the picks for this.
Well, so McVay said that they do expect Cooper Kupp back to be activated off the COVID list, and potentially Whitworth be back as well, but that's more up. That's more up in the air. But he said that it's leaning towards him playing, which is massive.
Mm-hmm.
And but the big thing is, what the hell is what's up with Goff? Because it's right. It says out right now on the injury. He didn't practice yesterday. I don't think he practiced today either. But so it's a kind of iffy on this pick here, whether or not Goff is playing or not. So,
all right,
I got to imagine he's going to play.
That's what I'm assuming. That's what my thought process is. So
I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go in pretty. I'll go in pretty deep right now. I have Seattle. I already placed a bet for Seattle minus 3.5 on myself in my own little account. And then I also think Seattle minus. I also put down Seattle minus 3.5. I put $200 down. And this is my reason why I don't think Jared Goff plays. If Jared Goff does play, he did get surgery on the thumb of his throwing hand. I don't know if any 3 of you have played football. I know Stick used to be a quarterback. I know I used to be a quarterback.
And I used to be a quarterback.
Okay.
At what level?
When I was 10.
Like 7th grade.
Okay, you
still matters. Thumb is a thumb.
You've thrown a football before, and you understand the importance of not only your thumb but your index finger. And now take that from playing flag football in middle school to playing in the NFL. You have an injured right thumb, which is obviously nowhere near 100%. And then not only that, but Jared Goff is their franchise quarterback. Are you really willing to risk the health of Jared Goff for this game? I do think they're kind of forcing Andrew Whitworth out a little bit early. I don't know, but that's just my feeling. Last week, John Wolford became the first player in the NFL history to throw for at least 200 passing yards and 500 rushing yards in his debut. But the team only scored.
Can we correct that real quick?
You say 500 rushing yards?
Sorry, I meant. Okay, backtrack. John Wolford became the first player in NFL history to throw for at least 200 passing yards and rush for 50 yards in an NFL debut.
But it's not even impressive. Like it's
not impressive.
Okay,
I'm just shocked that he's the first person to do that.
Okay, he was a financial analyst like 6 months ago, and now he's winning. He got him in the playoffs. Like, even if he is the one starting, he showed me enough to kind of trust him a little bit.
How many points did that Los Angeles Rams team score last week?
How many did Arizona score?
More.
And
less.
How?
The Rams won the game.
There was a defensive touchdown.
John Wolford was only able to muster around 9 points.
Do you know what? Know what really concerns me with with Seattle? Like, their defense has gotten better, but their offense has fallen off a cliff.
That's true, and it's not talked about enough. It's definitely not talked about.
It's no one mentions it, that this offense has gone to shit in the past 4 weeks.
Okay, here's my rebuttal. So they have only this year, Seattle has only had their 5 starting linemen 5 times. They've only been in the lineup together 5 times this year. And every time that they've started together, they've won a game. They're 5-0. As soon
against that Rams defensive front, though?
Is this week? Are they all starting this week?
They are all starting this week.
Right.
They're expected to have their 5 starting offensive linemen. In the previous 5 games when that happened, they were 5-0. Now, their defense has been up and down all season. but they have allowed just 12.5 points per game over the last 4 games. And granted, that was San Fran, the Rams, Washington, and the Jets. That's still 12.5 points. Okay, and then let me go back to the Los Angeles Rams side. Since 2002, quarterbacks making their first ever start in the wild card round are 9-30. In Jared Goff's first playoff game back in 2017, the Rams lost 26-13.
Well, I don't see how that's applicable because, well, are you saying first playoff start or first start ever? Because John Wolford started last week.
First start in the playoffs.
Okay, there you go. Well, so I'm kind of banking on Goff playing. That's why I have $100 of my dollars on the Rams plus 3.5. And I think that half point here is kind of the kicker that kind of boosts me to pick the Rams here. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a defensive matchup. I kind of like the under, but it's a little too low to put anything on, in my opinion. What's it, 42.5, 42 now, something like that?
Yes. It is 42.5, actually.
I think this is going to come down to a last-second field goal, which, I mean, I don't know. This isn't fantasy football where it's worth 4 when it's 50-plus yards. It's worth 3 wherever it is, and I think when if I think the Seahawks win the game, but it's going to be a field goal at the end or something like that to put them up by only a couple points.
That was my exact reasoning when I went through this game. I don't even want to reiterate what you just said, but Mano also has a pick, so maybe he's got something different. I just want to give the amounts on this one. I know Nick and Sam both did, but for this game, Mano put 300 on the Rams plus 3.5. I have 150. Yeah! Nick has 200 on the Seahawks minus 3.5, and Sam's got a hundo on the Rams. Wait.
Mano, why are you so confident?
Well, let's hear it. Let's hear why.
I have fallen in love with the Rams defense. I think I've gone on and on the same tangent for the past. Like,
it's hard not to fall in love with them. They're awesome.
I know. And I watched John Wolford last week, and he didn't do anything that would lose them the game. So I think carrying that momentum, especially with Sean McVay as your offensive coordinator and your head coach, I think they bake plays into that offense for him to succeed, and everything else is a bonus. You know what I mean? Kind of, they're going to put him Sean McVay is smart enough to put anybody, I think, in a position to succeed. And John Wolford impressed me. So I'm cool on the offensive side with that. Defensively, we've seen this matchup twice this year. I just think the Rams defense is far and away the better unit here. So give me the better defense and a quarterback that, isn't going to lose. I mean, I think Goff's going to end up playing. I don't think he's going to beat you. You think so? I'm working under the assumption here that Goff's going to end up playing.
Yeah, no, that was still my assumption. Like when I was making this bet, but I do really think it's a big possibility that Goff plays. Honestly, just give him like a Luke Skywalker robotic arm and just let him go to work.
My thing is, if Goff plays, I'm operating under the assumption that he isn't nearly close to 100%. The Rams obviously want to win this football. They want to win this playoff game more than I think they care about his health. So if they put him in this game, he's going to be maybe 75%. You apply a little bit of pressure to him, you knock him down a couple times. All you're going to see out of Goff is a bunch of short routes to now. Yes, you are getting Cooper Kupp back, but now you're going to see a bunch of short routes to Cooper Kupp, and now Seattle can play more into his injury as opposed to not. Now, I think Wolford is a better option at quarterback for Los Angeles because Wolford can do it with his legs, as I stated before. But either way,
I don't know about that, but
I'm done.
He's a solid mover. Listen, I just have
anything here.
I just didn't want to repeat what you said. I was going to say what you said word for word.
I meant do you have any picks on? Do you have any picks on this?
Yeah. I have the 150 on the Rams plus 3.5.
All right, I might have missed it, I guess.
Yeah.
There we go.
I just think it's going to be close. I'd rather this is a play on the Rams defense. I don't care if it's Goff or Wolford under center. I care because I would much rather want Goff under there, even not at 100%. But this is a play on the Rams defense, and to keep it within 3.5 points because they're capable. You said it, just literally taking over a game and controlling exactly how it goes.
See, I think the Rams defense is more concerned about keeping it within a touchdown than keeping it within 3 points.
I think they're concerned about winning a football game in the playoffs, but that's about it.
There you go. There it is.
That's about it.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're not worried about the spread. Saturday night, Tampa Bay at Washington. Next game. Tampa is 8-point favorites, and the total is at 45. I guess we're going to go off of 7.5 because I've seen it at both. Total opened at 46.5. It's now at 45. We made all of our picks based off the 7.5, so I feel like it's probably better to go off of that because this has been done. Regardless, you're not getting the hook under 7, so 7.5 or 8. Chances are it's not going to get close to that, but because I said it, it's going to happen. I'm just going to run through the picks for this one. We have a mishmash on this. Sammy has Washington football team plus 7.5 for 200. I have the Bucks minus 7.5 for 150. Mano has the under 44.5 for this, and that's for 100. Nick is also with me on the Bucks minus 7.5 for $100. Anybody want to kick it off? And
Sammy go. Because
I'm trying, but you're still talking there, Nick. So, are you guys aware that this is past Tom Brady's bedtime again, and we've seen all season what happens when he plays past 8:00?
I know it hasn't been good.
I'm not. Yeah, no, it hasn't been good. They've lost.
I've made that argument before.
Yeah, and I'm making it now. They lost to Chicago in prime time. They should have lost to the Giants in prime time, and they got their ass kicked by New Orleans in prime time. And there's a couple more that I really can't think of right now, but there's not enough offensive firepower there on Washington to really, as good as their defense is, they can only hold them to so many points, but I think they keep that within a touchdown. They're going to cause some turnovers, and then, as much as you want to go off trends and all this, Tom Brady in his career is 0-3 versus the NFC East in playoff games.
Fine.
I got 200 on that. I mean, that's more of a fun little factor. That's not why I'm betting it. I'm betting it because I think with Washington defense and keep it close. And I think that's going to play into the under, maybe a 21-17 kind of game.
Nice segue. Let me take it. Oh, he's segued the under. Let me take it. It's my business. It's part of our it's perfect transition. Try to take it away from me. What was the under. So I don't think Washington's going to score, if we're being completely honest here. I just don't think that offense with a hobbled Alex Smith can move the ball against a Buccaneers defense who has been near the top its defensive rankings this entire season, whatever one you want to look at.
They've been a roller coaster all year.
Yeah. They've been towards the top. That defense has been sound, and I think Todd Bowles puts them in a really good position to win, especially against a hobbled Alex Smith. He's not going to throw the ball 60 yards over your head. So you take away those check down routes, you take away the center of the field, and you make him go to the outsides. And I just don't think Alex Smith hobbled can make those throws. So I don't think they're going to score. So I'm happy with the under at 44.5 because I know if Tampa Bay's offense flusters too, then that's even better for me. So easy under pick for me.
Stick, do you want to go in or you want me to go in?
I'll go. I'm just more still stuck on the fact that Sam kind of gave us the Kirk Cousins argument for Tom Brady, who's won how many Super Bowls in his career? It's all at night.
I don't give a shit what he's done in his career. What have you done for me recently? And all this season is shit the bed in prime time.
He beat the Rams in the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
Yes, that's what I said. I don't care what you did in your career. I'm talking about this season in Tampa Bay.
They closed the season out on a.
Also, you said that when they beat the Rams, he scored 10 points in that game.
Did he win? Did he win?
The defense won that game for them. He was
okay. What about the year when they played? What about the year when they played Atlanta and he was down 20 plus points?
That was 4 years ago.
What have you done for me now?
Yes, exactly.
I'm with Sam on this. I like Tom Brady.
He's the greatest quarterback of all time. There's really no debate in that. But he's 43. I don't even know how old he is, but he's pretty much at early bird special age at this point, the way he's playing in prime time.
to Sam's point, this Washington football team defense, and I'm sure one of you guys are going to touch on this, is one of the better defenses in the league as well. Tom Brady, we have seen this for the past like 6 years. If you get pressure on Tom Brady, and the Buccaneers have done a really good job this year of not letting Brady get touched, but when he does, when they get overmatched and it's consistent, he struggles to move around the pocket now because he's 40 years, for whatever, how old now he is. He doesn't move the same way he does anymore. I don't think he throws the same way he does anymore, but he's doing just enough to get it done. But this Washington football team defense is going to be in his face the entire time. So
Chase Young called the shot. So
exactly, yeah, I have no problem.
He called
with
his shot against
Washington
he called his shot against arguably the best quarterback of all time
in the playoffs.
All right,
on a team that's fully loaded. Now,
I think some other guys did kind of a similar thing by the names of
Strahan,
Justin Tuck, all those great defensive ends from the Giants teams. So
Stick, please start talking before I start going. Stick, go in, please.
Tampa Bay scored 44 against Atlanta last week, scored 47 against Detroit, scored 31 against Atlanta the week before that, 26 against Minnesota.
Oh, Detroit.
It's 44 points in the NFL. It's 47 points in the NFL. You're playing Washington.
Yeah, no.
Yes, they have a good defense, but they're 7-9 for a reason. They're 7-9 for a reason.
Because the offense stinks.
Exactly, and I'm not banking on.
And you look, that defense got exponentially better as the season went on.
So did the Bucs offense, though. If you're gonna really go that way, that's the thing.
All right.
It's just
all right. So hey,
all right.
We'll see what happens Saturday.
All right. So I'll back Washington football defense. I have been all year, and I will back them again. They haven't given up. They haven't lost by more than a touchdown in almost 3 months. They've won 5 of their last 7. Most points they've given up in that period is 20 points. But guess who they've beaten? They beat Philly. They beat Carolina. They beat Seattle. They beat San Fran. They beat Pittsburgh, Dallas, or in Cincinnati. But they haven't beat all those teams. I'm sorry. They lost to Cincinnati. They lost to Carolina. But still, they're not scoring any points. And those aren't top-tier teams. I mean, granted, Seattle is a top-tier team, and that's besides the point. My problem here, as Mano stated in his under, is that Washington has no offense. They have no offense. Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson have been on the injury report for the past 2-3 weeks. Alex Smith has been on the injury report for the past 2-3 weeks. He almost lost his leg. He's obviously hobbled, and he isn't 100%. They're going to start him anyway because they give him, obviously he's going to give them. Okay, so if you start Alex Smith at 80%, he gives you the best possible chance for a victory, then what does that say about your team? What does that say about your team? My problem is Tom Brady has no problem putting up at least 21 points on you. Granted, your team is the best defense in the NFL, but how many great defenses has Tom Brady seen in his lifetime? How many?
All of them.
Plenty. Yeah, he's seen plenty of good defenses.
So do you think he's not accustomed to dealing with what he's dealing with now? I
think like you can make the argument like he doesn't have to torch him to win the game. Like it's going to be like kind of a feeling out process.
No, he does have eventually, to torch them. He does, because he saw in the Super Bowl 4 years ago when he played Atlanta, when Atlanta torched him and he was down all those points, that the other team can still come back. So do you think Tom Brady's not going to sit there and come for necks?
It's the playoffs. I feel like we're like missing that entire overarching theme here, that like these teams are not just trying to keep it close and get a moral victory. Like these are the top 14 best teams in the NFL, and that's it. Like they're going to try to win a game and win a Super Bowl.
Before I go, the only pick I'll back here besides my own is I will back Mano's under pick. I didn't put any money on it because I just didn't. But the under has cashed in Washington's past 5 games. And despite Tampa Bay putting up 40 plus in their past 3 games, or averaging 40 plus their past 3 games, their under has hit 3 of their last 5. I do think this is an under game. I don't think I don't think Washington scores over 14 points. I think Tampa Bay puts up way over 20. And I think that's it.
I see that world too, if it makes you feel better. Yeah. Like Tom Brady's getting called out by Chase Young, who has 14 games under his belt.
Come on.
He's going to be like, you know what he's going to do? In Tom Brady's ideal world, right, where he can kiss his son on the mouth and not get ridiculed for it.
We went there. All right.
Yeah.
Where he beats the Giants and the Eagles.
Yeah, right, where he beats the Giants. Yeah. So he's gonna torch Chase Young and that team in Tom Brady's perfect world, and in Nick's scenario here, and then he's gonna go shake Chase Young's hand at the 50 and tell him, "Nice try, kid. See you next time." And
He's
on
gonna
to the
say,
next
just
one.
so you know, you were born after I started playing professionally. Just so you know.
If you come at the king, you best not miss. So
Go ahead, Stick. Wrap it up. Get
I
out of
can
here.
see both.
We will
both,
see.
Both sides
Get
here.
out of here.
Yeah, let's move on to Sunday. We gotta get off this fucking game.
All right, let's move over to Sunday. We have 3 more games, starting with the Ravens visiting the Titans. Spread is at 3 right now, and the total at 54.5. The money lines are Ravens minus 180, Titans plus 150. Interesting game. To me, is going to be the best one of the weekend in terms of entertainment value. Both teams came in at 11-5. Baltimore 10-5 against the spreads. Tennessee 7-9. I don't know why I said minus. Baltimore hit the over 7 times out of 16, 9 times the under. Tennessee 12 on the over, 3 on the under. Didn't know that. We did a football podcast all year, and I did not know that the Tennessee Titans ended the season 12-3 against the total. That is nuts. Anyways.
Well, there's 16 games.
Well, they must have pushed one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What do we got? Here? It's going to be a really good game.
Go ahead. Whoever's picking
All right,
the
you want me to
Ravens.
run through the picks first? Because we're all
I'll
getting silent.
start because I know it's going to be me versus the world here. I got 150
Let me just preface
beans.
this real quick. Just wait. Let me preface this. Let me go through them all. I'll set the stage. We got me. I have 2 picks on this game. It's my biggest game. I have the Titans plus 3 at +1. Or I'm throwing a bunch of signs out here that aren't there. I can't read. I have too many numbers on my screen. I'm going Titans plus 3 for $150. I'm also going Titans money line plus 150 for $100. Sam is going Ravens money line minus 180 for $150. Mano is going over 54.5 for $50. And Nick is going Titans plus 3 for $50. So a lot of money, fictional money, capsON dollars getting thrown around here. Sam, you wanted to start it off. So let's hear, since you're I think the only one. Mano didn't pick a side here, but you seem to be the only one on the Ravens.
Yeah, so 3.5 was like a little scary to me, so I opted I think it's minus 180. That wasn't too much for me to go money line here.
Yeah,
and I just think that the difference here is the Baltimore defense. That they're kind of they're playing better as of late, and also this Baltimore team was sitting at 6-5. Everyone's doubting Lamar Jackson and all that, and since then they've rattled off 5 wins in a row, many by big margins against bad teams, but that's what we're supposed to do against bad teams, is beat the shit out of them. And this Titan team, yes, that offense is incredible, but I'm worried about that defense. And this is a massive game for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. And I see a big time performance from the entire offense themselves, especially Lamar Jackson. I think they come out on top in the end.
Okay, now I'm going to do a quick rebuttal. Now, you did say that the Baltimore Ravens defense has shown out the past couple weeks. Now, can you tell me the teams that they have played the past 3 weeks?
And do you remember what I said 2 seconds ago when I said that's what they're supposed to do?
I don't agree with him, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He mentioned it.
Okay. I'll remind the viewers out there. They played the Cincinnati Bengals last week.
And they let up 3 points. What are they going to do? Get negative points? That's not fucking possible. So let's what are you supposed to do? They got a field goal. Great. What are you supposed to do? Come on.
They played the Giants the week before, gave up 13 points. And then they played the Jacksonville Jaguars the week before that, gave up 14. So those are 3 teams that don't really exist in the offensive realm.
Then they also put up 40 against the Jaguars.
I don't know where you're going with this, Nick. I don't know.
Yeah, they're doing what they're supposed to. They're beating the hell out of bad teams.
I'm on your side, but the argument. It's the argument that's getting me.
So there's now Sammy's talked about the offensive standpoint. Now, last year, when the Ravens played the Tennessee Titans in the wild card, you talk about offensive statistics. Now, I will preface you that the Tennessee Titans did win 28-12. Okay.
Yeah, and I had a money line last year. The Titans,
okay,
I did, and that was a great bet for me.
And total offense Lamar Jackson. You talk about offense. Lamar Jackson passing the football last year in the wild card round against Tennessee Titans. He threw for 365 yards, and he rushed for 143. Did it make a difference? No. Ryan Tannehill threw for 88 yards.
You're going to tell me the exact same thing's going to happen this year with a
Nope.
significantly worse Tennessee defense?
I don't think it's significantly worse. I do think.
I mean, they're bottom of the league in a lot of it. So the bottom of the league in a lot of big categories. So
Baltimore in general has given up 4.4 rushing yards per carry, which isn't great, but it isn't bad. But when you're playing Derrick Henry, it's not bad. It's not bad. But
4.5 yards per carry for a defensive unit. That's a lot.
Good. That's not
a lot.
That's a first down every. That's a first down every drive.
Yeah, not good. A lot of points.
Okay,
You'll
so
never
then
punt.
you figure now they're playing Derrick Henry, who just rushed for 2,000 plus yards. So that 4.4 yards per carry might as well just be 10.5 yards per carry when you're playing Derrick Henry. My problem here is can Lamar Jackson perform under pressure? He has shown previously that he can't do it, and I think Tennessee is going to be their kryptonite again this year. I would sprinkle a little bit on Tennessee money line, but I feel more comfortable with them +3. I didn't put a lot of money on it because, like Mano said, or somebody said that this is going to be the most action-packed game of the weekend. I completely agree. I think if Lamar Jackson throws for 350 yards, I don't think it makes a difference because I think Tennessee controls the ball on the ground the whole entire football game.
They're not going to get the turnovers they got last year though. Those dumb Lamar Jackson turnovers that they got last season in the playoffs. I mean, there is a little spot there we can both hit. Because I have a money line, not spread. So
that's fine. And listen, as long as they cover and they hits your money line, that's fine with me. I just don't trust Lamar Jackson. We saw what he did earlier this year. It took him like almost 6-7 games just to kind of get into a passing groove. And then he did get into it, obviously, towards.
He's in that groove now, and
he is, and he did. He performed against 3 very poor defenses, but now you're on an escalated scale.
Well, let's also this is more towards the offense, not the defense. The Browns don't have necessarily a bad defense, and he put up a 47 on him, and what was probably the game of the year.
A great defense. They just let who was the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the second squad that almost beat them?
I understand. Well, they Denzel Ward was out. They had a lot of guys out on the defensive side.
Yeah, but Myles Garrett was playing, and he's arguably one of the most important players on the defensive side of the football. And it didn't matter when Mason Rudolph almost beat the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland with a second squad group of players. They had nobody on their defensive side. The Pittsburgh Steelers had nobody. They didn't have any Casey Hayward. They didn't have T.J. Watt. They didn't have Joe Hayden, and they still almost beat the Cleveland Browns. So the Cleveland Browns, I don't really consider to be even remotely close.
It's that key word there. Almost.
That's fine.
That's
almost.
The key word.
They can almost beat the Tennessee Titans, but they don't, and they still cover. Listen, I just think I didn't put a lot of money on it for a reason. I think this is a very back and forth game, and I do think it can go either way. I do think Tennessee is going to be Baltimore's kryptonite, and Tennessee was looking forward to playing Baltimore again in the playoffs because I think they wanted to keep
I have been critical of Lamar Jackson, especially early in the season with him on the big games, but so he's 0-2 in the playoffs, and at that point it's like, all right, rough start to the playoff career. I think a third is where you start to be considered a choke artist in the playoffs, and he doesn't want that, so I think he comes out and win this game.
I'll jump in here, and I'm going to go off of what Nick was saying. This is my biggest game of the day. I got 150, I think, on Titans +3. It's at 3.5 now, so whatever. I'll stick with the 3 number just for fairness sake. But then I have 100 on the money line for the Titans. I'm not going to sit here and play politics with you and tell you everything that is wrong with the Baltimore Ravens and everything that is right with the Tennessee Titans, because it's not the case. The Baltimore won 5 straight. Like, everything you guys have said about Baltimore is true. Like, they're hot. They're rivaling the Bills right now for the hottest team in football, entering the playoffs. You're just giving me like a field goal at home with a Tennessee team who is really, really, really good. I think Mike Vrabel is. What's up?
Sorry, I hate to interrupt, but you say a hot team. Did you see what Tennessee had to do last week just to beat the Houston Texans? I mean, did you?
I'm talking about the Ravens.
I know, but I'm talking about the Titans. I'm sorry, but did you see the throw that Ryan Tannehill had to make to A.J. Brown? That was a crazy throw, and A.J. Brown's also a stud, and that's it. I'm done. Sorry, I'm done.
No, I'm just saying, like, you're getting 3 points at home with a team like the Tennessee Titans. I think Mike Vrabel can really embrace kind of this underdog mentality, even though, they are the underdog, but these teams are fairly matched, and both teams can win this easily. Not easily, but you can with one. No matter which way the ball bounces, one of these teams can win this game. And if you told me that, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm pretty much rambling here, but Tennessee Titans, This is a team where all year I don't really have any like legitimate, confident reasoning behind it. It's more of just like an aura around the Tennessee Titans. I think it stems from the fact that Mike Vrabel is just an easy coach to trust. Ryan Tannehill is a very steady quarterback. He's not going to make mistakes for you, but he's also not going to go Patrick Mahomes and win the game for you. So I just like this overall Tennessee team, and keeping the ball on the ground and in a guy like Derrick Henry's hands, I feel like that is something that I would love to put my money on, and I need to see it from Lamar Jackson in a big spot first.
Mano, what do you got in this game?
The over. And it's
Why?
like $50.
I like it though.
I think it's too close to call. For me at least, spread wise. I like both these teams, and I think they both have their issues. And I think you can put this in whatever, generator, whatever, simulation you have. And it's probably going to come out like 55-45, which, or not the score, but like 55% of the time, the Ravens win or the Titans win, whatever, as close to 50 as you're going to get. Right. But the over here, like these two teams know each other. I don't think either of these defenses really can stop each other. And it's going to come down to who just like football, who wins, who scores the most points. And it's going to be a fight till the fourth quarter to score the most points. So $50 on the over, and it's not that bad of a number. It's not the college football range. So I'm fine with it.
I think last week Sammy picked an over that was more points than this. Yeah, it was the Houston game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it went over like
it did go over. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the end of that one. Ravens Titans at 1:00 on Sunday. The line is Ravens -3, and the total is at 54.5. So next
quick note before you move on, Stick. Last quick note: these teams don't like each other. They hate each other. The Titans stood and warmed up on the Ravens 50-yard line on their logo, and it was this whole big deal, and the Ravens took it out of proportion, and the Titans were just kind of standing there like, what are you talking about? And then they won. Then the Titans won. So these teams are hot and head. They're going to be coming for throats. Whoever scores more wins.
And before we continue, I believe Tennessee has has fans coming into their stadium.
I think they have been all year.
They've had them all year. It's Tennessee.
Okay, so now
it's
you
Nashville,
talk about
brother.
Now you talk about a playoff.
They don't care.
You talk about a playoff game where they really need some backup in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
There's no pandemic in SEC country.
All right, go ahead, Stick. What we got
It seems
next?
to be the truth, Sammy. It does. All right, next game. It's actually the Nickelodeon game. It's going to be, I think, 440. The Chicago Bears made it into the playoffs to play the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans mid-afternoon on Sunday. Mitch Trubisky is going to be under center. It's going to be an interesting one. But the line is Saints -9.5, total set at 47.5. I'm just going to run through our picks. It looks like we have a general consensus here, but Bears 9.5 is going to be this pick against the spread for everybody. I have 150 on it. Nick has 100. Sam has 100. Mano has 40. Interesting number. And Mano also has over 47.5. Anybody want to kick it off and kind of back up the Bears here?
All right, so let me put a rationale behind picking the Bears.
Okay.
The Bears do not deserve to be in the playoffs. And for that reason, they will show up and have their best game of the season on Sunday. It makes absolutely no sense, but they're going to be down there to the wire with the New Orleans Saints team. Like, I don't get that. Offense has been like, kind of awoken a little bit, with Trubisky once he took back over again. I mean, I don't think he should have got benched in the first place. I mean, they were a 3-0 team, and they benched him.
Mm-hmm.
Say what you want about Trubisky, he's won games throughout his career, so I think they keep it close enough to 9.5 points in a playoff game. It's a little much for me.
It's a lot.
All right, so this is the biggest spread this weekend. And I think that is a huge thing. In New Orleans, I heard Sean Payton was already vouching for possibly getting 50,000 people to quarantine for 2 weeks, specifically so they could go to the stadium and sit in the stands. But I heard the NFL turned it down. But Sean Payton's at least thinking about it. But let me start with Chicago. Chicago, they took New Orleans to overtime in week 8, and they lost 26-23. Now, granted, Nick Foles was the starter, and Nick Foles did throw a costly interception that game. That's still 3 points, and that's still overtime. Chicago,
and you could argue at that point in time that was probably when Chicago was at their worst during the season, like mid-season. They were playing like crap.
That was a primetime game, right? I think it was a Sunday or a Monday night.
I think it was. It was one of the two.
Yeah, I think so.
But the fact that they took them to almost to overtime, and that was when the Bears were beginning to fall apart. This really says a lot, and they're playing a lot better now, I think. So sorry to interrupt, but
the Chicago Bears being 8-8, being 8-8 in the playoffs recently in the NFL playoffs has been a good thing. Since 2000, there have been 5 teams that have made it into the playoffs at 8-8, and their record in those playoffs are 4-1.
Okay,
so that's a little bit of numerical stuff.
Are you trying to tell me
first round
that? Are you trying to tell me that I should take Bears money line right now?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just putting the numbers out there for you, Sammy. And then let's not forget about the New Orleans Saints' last 3 trips to the postseason. Last year in 2019, they had an overtime loss to the Vikings. The year before in 2018, they had the no defensive pass interference call against the Rams.
Absolutely pass interference.
That's the worst missed call of all time.
Nickel Roby-Coleman laid him out. Let's not harp on this. Continue.
And then the year before in 2017 was the Minneapolis Miracle.
Oh, that's right.
So 3 straight years, the Saints have been stunned in the playoffs, kind of suggesting that they don't belong there or that there's something that's kind of keeping them from moving forward. Do I think the Saints aren't going to win this game? No, I do think the Saints are obviously a better team offensively and defensively. Trubisky needs to, I think Trubisky needs to win this football game or at least make it close for his job to be secure next year. I don't know what the hell the Chicago Bears are doing in the front office, anything like that. I don't want to think about it. But 9.5 on the road, I'll take it.
I think this Bears offense is turning into what the Cardinals would be if Kyler Murray couldn't run at the rate that he did. Mitch Trubisky's got Allen Robinson there. He's using him like a number one. They're getting the run game working. I mean, they don't really have a two-headed monster. It's more just Dave Montgomery right now. It's not like the Edmonds, Kenyon Drake. I kind of do this often where I just compare offenses, and it doesn't really make sense, but it makes sense in my head, and that's what I'm doing. But, like, it's working. I just think the Bears are going to keep this close enough. Mano, can you tell us about the total, please? Save me from this little ramble.
No, I mean, you guys said it about as well as I could. This Bears offense is starting to pick up the slack. I think they're better offensively with Trubisky. I think they could do more than they would with Nick Foles. Do you want Nick Foles to start in a miracle playoff scenario? Maybe, but I think Trubisky gives them the better chance of winning this game. Their offense is starting to find some rhythm with Trubisky at quarterback. Montgomery looks like a bell cow back without Tariq Cohen there, who hasn't been there the entire season, but now Montgomery's really starting to pick it up. I just think they keep it. I think they keep it close. So I have 9.5 as well. I believe Bears plus 9.5, but I think my big money's on the over here. Both these offenses can light it up. I don't anticipate much defense being played in this game, despite the profiles of these teams. I think offenses show up before defenses in this week 1 game or this wild card game.
I mean, you talk about Chicago's offense, and I don't mean to harp on it, but I do think they've kind of found some comfortability. Obviously, beginning of this year, there's all these question marks when they traded for Foles. Who's going to start? Who's going to be the guy? What's going on? And the switch at quarterback in the beginning of the season didn't really not only did it not make sense, but I think it kind of broke up the locker room. But you mentioned how they pick up steam. I forgot who mentioned about how they're using Allen Robinson as a wide receiver 1, and I believe he has the most targets in the league without a drop, or the most active targets in the league without a drop. They have Anthony Miller, who, I mean, has always been a sleeper. Whoever plays fantasy football out there knows Anthony Miller has been a sleeper for the past year or so. Darnell Mooney, again, if you've ever played fantasy football, you kind of know these guys' stats. Darnell Mooney what did he put up last week? He put up 11 for 93 last week, and that was when Allen Robinson only had 2 catches. They obviously have the ability there at the offensive side. you talked about maybe David Montgomery being a bell cow. I don't know if he's a bell cow. He struggled all year. He picked it up the back half of the year. Congrats to him. But you got Cole Kmet that you just drafted, who's an athletic tight end. You have Jimmy Graham, who's a veteran tight end who knows how to play in these games.
Revenge game.
Give me a shot here. Give me a shot. Give me a shot.
All right. So that wraps up that game. Let's move on to the final playoff game of the weekend. It's going to be the Sunday night game, the Cleveland Browns, the COVID-ravaged Cleveland Browns, against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The line is Steelers -6. The total set at 47.5. Just quickly to run through the picks for all of us. Mano has 2 picks on this one. The Steelers -6 at with $150 on that. And then Mano also has an interesting one, which I was going to put it in mine after I saw yours because I like it that much. I messed up. It's not that, but it's your Washington football team lowest scoring thing. Let's continue. I don't know why I would think that game is in here. The spreadsheet is driving me nuts right now. Sam's got $150 on the under 47.5. I also have $100 on the under 47.5. Nick's got 100 on the Steelers -6. Now that that's over with, let's talk some football. What are we doing?
Mano, you want to go in on Pittsburgh? Go in on Pittsburgh first if you want.
Yeah, well, I'd rather go in on Cleveland.
That's where I was going to go to too.
So we can. So do you want to let's have a combined thrashing here of Cleveland? I'd imagine, Nick, that you're going to get more into the football stuff.
Yes, a little bit.
Like
correct.
the numbers. Okay, so let me give you this. Right. So the Browns haven't made the playoffs since 2002.
Mm-hmm.
It is the year 2021. That is 19 years that they have not made the playoffs. And in between that 19 years, they have been somewhere between an upstart franchise and the laughing stock of the league, right? 2020, 2021 comes around. They have their franchise quarterback. They have an offense that can move the ball. They have a pretty solid defense, as I'm sure you'll get to, Nick. But here we are again with the Cleveland Browns in another odd scenario for them. Their head coach, Kevin Stefanski, tested positive for COVID. So he's not going to coach. He's not going to be on the sideline. He can't be in the practice building because the practice building's closed because of him and others, I think. And I think that's a big deal. I have Kevin Stefanski from a pure football standpoint as my coach of the year. He took a Baker Mayfield-led offense and kind of flipped them around to the point where they're serviceable. And I think they're fine. I don't know if I want to use good or very good, but I'll put them at like fine. So if you were getting a test back and you got a 75 and you kind of studied for it, you'd be like, that's fine.
Facts.
Yeah. So, but he can't be on the sideline. So my mind goes back to last Saturday when Clemson's offensive coordinator tested positive and couldn't coach the game, right? Obviously, there's some momentum there. There's some rhythm there. You know the guys. You've been calling plays the whole year. I think Kevin Stefanski's next guy up is going to struggle, just like Clemson's offensive coordinator did against Ohio State. It's just that for me pushes this over the edge along with all the football stuff. It's that Kevin Stefanski, the dude that's been there for 16, 17 weeks now, cannot coach this team. And the dude that's next up, I don't have confidence in, so I'm not going to put my money in, despite the fact that the Steelers might be the most overrated, whatever they finished 12-4 team of all time, or underrated. So, I just like the Steelers here.
Just to real quick go off that Clemson point you made. You look at that first quarter, they looked very good because you got to think they already had a written game plan ready to go. You had a script
the Jets
that their real OC had given them. The same thing Stefanski will give, whoever's going to be calling plays. But after that, they fell apart because, this guy's not able to adjust to whatever Ohio State's adjustments are.
You don't script 60 minutes.
Exactly. Maybe. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, Nick.
So I was going to be on Cleveland initially. After last week, I was going to be on Cleveland this game, no matter what the line was, until Kevin Stefanski tested positive for COVID-19. Mano and Sam hit on the points with Stefanski's absence. And when you talk about calling a football game, he's going to script the whole first quarter, which could be good, could be bad. but it's the adjustments afterwards that take the biggest hit.
Mhm.
Not only
And they're
that,
not practicing.
okay, so now we're adding virtual meetings
Yeah.
prior to a wild card game against your divisional rivals.
Who have owned you historically, have owned you.
Okay, so I'll get
Sorry.
into that right now. So Cleveland has not won in Pittsburgh since 2003. They are 0-17, and 12 of those losses have come by double digits. Okay.
Sounds
You
like
could
when
have
the
told me
Giants go to
ever, and I
Dallas.
probably would have believed you.
Yeah, you could have said like any year I would have believed it.
The Browns have not
you could
won.
said never.
The Browns have not won. Now, they haven't been to a playoff game in 19 years, but they haven't won a playoff game since 1994.
I wasn't even here yet.
No, I don't think any of us were.
I was all aboard the Browns train based on the way that their offense was rolling, based on the way that their defense was holding up. But the way their offense was rolling was because of Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski is the first person to come into that Cleveland Browns building in 10, 15, 20 years that knew how to use his quarterback. We've seen over the past 3-4 weeks, Baker Mayfield getting more comfortable, making the plays that he's supposed to, looking like a number 1 overall draft pick. Without that quarterback that's making you that number 1 overall draft pick, who are you? He hasn't done it with the 2 previous coaches that he has. He's not going to do it with another guy who doesn't understand how he works. Kevin Stefanski knows how to run this offense, and he's the only person that knows how to run this offense. If somebody else knew how to do it, it would be somebody else, not Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski is going to be home in his living room. He can't go close to the field. He can't sit up in the box. He can't do anything. He can't contact the team. He's going to be home in his living room watching his team lose by at least 6 points.
I agree. And I'm going to take the under 47 here because of that and kind of like the whole mishmash here of the fact that the game plan coordination isn't going to be there. The in-time adjustments, there's going to be mistakes made, point being that are not going to allow for big quick strike plays to be made, or not many of them at least. 47.5. So that gives us a 27-20 game. And I don't even know if the Browns score that many points. When I think of this game, I think of like 27-17, 24-17. I think that stays under. If I had to put a pick on the spread here, gun to my head, I would go Steelers -6, especially after this fancy news. Like, I know a head coach being out is like a big deal, but like I didn't really drive home completely until you guys just put that together and explain that, because that makes total sense. Like, just the way you kind of like talked through that, it makes perfect sense. And Sam, you made a great point with the
point,
Clemson
Stick,
game.
I don't know if I would make that case if I just didn't watch Clemson last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
However,
I didn't even
I don't
notice
know
that in
if
the
I would
Clemson
make that
game either.
connection. You know, even if they went out and they lost by 3 or they won by 20, you know, like it's so circumstantial, and that's just what I'm on now. That
It's
I
true.
think it's a big
you
deal.
look at now. We'll play this scenario now. You scale it up a little bit to Tampa Bay's offense. So say Tampa Bay's missing Bruce Arians or their offensive coordinator. That doesn't make a difference because Tom Brady knows how to get it done. Baker Mayfield does not know how to get it done. He needed that extra hand to get it done. He had arguably one of the best wide receivers in the league with OBJ. He had Jarvis Landry. He had David Njoku. He had Austin Hooper. I mean, he had this team was star-studded on the offensive side. He couldn't figure it out the past 2 years. It took him 2.5 years to figure it out. And now he doesn't have his guy.
To that point too, though, Nick, Bruce Arians doesn't call plays. Byron Leftwich calls plays. But the points still stand. It's Tom Brady versus Baker Mayfield in a situation where mental, fortitude and that 40 years of playing football matters. However long Tom Brady's been in the league for.
Tom Brady's 63 years old.
All right, Kevin Stefanski.
He's 195.
Kevin Stefanski calls the plays for Baker Mayfield, and they're in their ears all the time. Now he's got a different voice in his head telling him a play that he might not have confidence in. And if he does have confidence in it, is he going to run it the way it's supposed to be run? Or if he doesn't have confidence in it, does he audible out of it into something that Pittsburgh can play into? It's just too much here. And the fact that Baker Mayfield is a third-year quarterback in the league, new dude in his ear calling plays, like I'd love to stay away from it, but I think -6 is just too juicy.
And again, it's tough for me because I've kind of been on the Browns all year, and I kind of really like the Browns. And I was on them going into this game. And if they had Stefanski, I guarantee you I would be taking the Browns plus money. But like I said, now you're talking about a quarterback who doesn't know what plays he's calling, like you said, man, against arguably the best defense in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
They just barely won last week, and the Steelers didn't have Cam Hayward, they didn't have T.J. Watt, they didn't have Joe Hayden, three arguably their best defensive players they didn't have, and they barely won. They put up 24 points. Now you're talking about an offense that you're not familiar with against a defense who was better than it was last week. What are you going to do?
I don't know. I want you to finish your thought, but before you do,
I don't have any more. We're good.
Oh, okay, you're done. All right.
Yeah.
Last note on this game: Jedrick Wills and Rashad Higgins were cited for drag racing earlier this week. Yeah, and Jedrick Wills tweeted, it was like, "You've never tried to beat your boy off the line on a red light," and it's like,
God.
The answer is yes, right? Like,
I wasn't going to say anything.
Do it, right? But they got cited for drag racing, so it's this whole thing, and I'm sure it's a distraction. You know, even if they can't go into the facility, I'm sure it's a distraction on some point, especially if these dudes are on the computer, on their phone doing these meetings. Yeah. They're going to see,
Listen, I'm not. It's sitting in your basement or sitting in your house is boring. If you guys haven't known, if made it this far in the podcast, I've been in quarantine for almost a week now, and it's boring. How are you going to get anything done? How are you going to have virtual meetings and sit here in your house and get anything done? You're not going to
get a playoff game too. You got to get amped for a playoff game against your division rivals, and you're asking me to do it over the computer where I'm looking at somebody else. But back to the drag racing point, do you think that's a big deal? Like, does that have any effect? No. Okay.
I would not something like that. If it were something much more severe, sure. Yeah. But this is like the fact what he said exactly was like, you never have to beat your boy off the red light.
Yeah, off the line.
I've done it 1,000 times, but.
I mean, listen, I drive a 2003 Chevy Cavalier. I've never really had a nice car, and all my boys have always beat me, so I've never really tried. But
my 06 Accord gets going. Or used to, at least.
But to that point, at least Pittsburgh knows what's going on too, so they're gonna be jawing at JJ or TJ Watt's gonna get past
vroom, vroom.
Anybody
on a thing, and he's gonna get in his face and start driving the car like he's Howie Kendrick and Adam Eaton in the World Series. It's. I don't know. Listen, last thing I swear, I've been off the Browns this year, and they've proved me wrong, and it pains me to say it, but this is the week I can bash Kevin Stefanski because I called him the coach of the year already, so it's okay.
I didn't have any final thoughts, but I have a quick one now, and I wasn't going to say something before when you were going through your whole thing about Stefanski in the beginning, because it's easy to catch COVID. We've realized that over the last 9 months.
Sure,
Nick, and I'm sure you didn't try your hardest.
Listen, he could have done everything right.
That's what I'm saying. I wasn't going to say it's irresponsible or anything. However, now that you bring up the drag racing point, and the fact that the Browns haven't been in the playoffs before these guys were born, Rashad Higgins was not alive the last time the Browns were in the playoffs. There's no way he was even born yet.
In 2002? You're saying this dude's 19? No.
It was 2002, fine. Okay, fine.
He was a baby, but
you get the point.
He was a youngin'.
It's irresponsible. You're playing a playoff game. You're playing against the Steelers. Kevin Stefanski, stay home. The rest of the guys, stop drag racing. Just play the playoff game. You guys haven't been here in so long. Just get it done. Aaron Rodgers literally had one message to his team for the off week. Do not catch COVID. That's it.
That's it. I mean,
stay home. You're playing a playoff game. Just
I hate to harp on it, and you talked about it, and I don't know. We're all Giants fans here, all four of us, but we don't really talk about it because who really cares about the Giants? But I know. But I don't know who's seen Joe Judge's his presser since the Eagles lost. But he made one really good point and the amount of sacrifices that these teams have made, the players, the families, the coaches, is immense. And to think that somebody would kind of give it up, whether Stefanski did it on purpose, on accident. I mean, I don't know. I'm not calling this guy out because it's none of my business. I mean, hey, I work in a supermarket. I'm exposed every day. That's none of my business. But to lose it, to get this far and to blow it to COVID is, I mean, it's bullshit. I mean, it sucks. And I don't know what he did wrong to do it, but you got to be more careful. You've already given up so much. I mean, I would hate to see a game or a team suffer a loss because of a COVID protocol, whether it was exposure, whether it was, obviously contracting the disease. It's tough, man. It's tough.
It is tough. All right. I don't know where Sammy went. However, we have a couple more plays with some leftover money. I have 2 parlays. Sam has a parlay. Mano has a parlay. I have a teaser. Mano has a teaser. We're going to put those in a blog later this week prior to the games. If you want those picks, go check those out. They're going to be very similar to what we've been doing. But obviously we had some leftover money out of the $1,000. So yeah, we're going to post those on there. You can go check it out on our website, capsON Sports. Follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at capsON Sports. I feel like I wear this every time, but you can go grab some merch. We don't make any money off of it. We just want you wearing the logo because sports betting is fun. It's important. Sports are cool.
I have a good time doing it. I don't know about you.
Anybody have any final thoughts before we end this?
Final thoughts before we end this. I know before we started this podcast, Sammy and I had a conversation and I told you guys what was a lock. And 76ers first quarter -2.5 in case anybody bet it.
It did just hit, right?
It did just hit. Sixers first quarter spread. If any of you guys want to get on that, they're only good in the first quarter, and then everything else, who really cares?
All right. So that just about does our wildcard weekend episode of the capsON Sports podcast. My name is Tyler Blumenstick, alongside Sam Meehan, Nick Tobias, and Anthony Mano. We will see you next week for the divisional round.